All right, welcome to the Fi-Losophy podcast. My name's Andrew, this is Tyson, and we are talking together today and for the next couple of weeks about philosophy and finance, financial independence, and really how you can learn something from philosophy and incorporate it into your financial life so that you can reach independence and maybe a peace of mind that you've been hoping to find. So, Tyson, I don't know, anything else you want to say?
Well, no, the reason that we're doing this is because it turns out that over the past 5,000 years, the philosophers of different ages have had some pretty good advice on how we view the material world, how we deal with maybe not explicitly money, but money-oriented things. And it's interesting to bring some of those thoughts from great thinkers and put them in modern situations.
That's a good point. And so, Tyson, you have spent a lot of time studying philosophy, and I have spent, I got a book that's sitting on the table, and that's about the extent of it for me.
I saw that when I came in. I was really, it was
There's
impressive.
a lot of guys that are named in there, many of them Greek.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Greek is where we all start. Well,
That's right.
Generally speaking, where we all start with philosophy. I have a master's degree in philosophy, which took me, only about 15 years to get because I did it like one class every out their semester kind of thing. But,
Nice.
Yeah.
That's fun. So when did you finally graduate as a master in philosophy?
Yeah. It was in...
Isn't that kind of anti-philosophy? Master in philosophy?
I think it would depend on the school of thought
fair enough.
that you're coming from. But certainly some of them would not look kindly toward that sort of quantification, for sure. I don't know. It was a while ago.
Nice, cool,
Yeah.
Very cool. And obviously finances. So Tyson, you and I are involved in some fun projects together as well, related to a company you founded. So
Right. So OnTrajectory, the company that I founded, is all about helping people visualize their financial future, make plans that, I always say that I founded the company because I wanted to think less about money, not more about money. So I developed that tool to get my plan out there. And once the plan is out there, then I can go have fun and do other things and not worry about money.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things. And as we kind of get into this topic, it's really the idea that money is like central to life. Like you have to deal with it. It's a thing that all of us deal with every day. But at the same time, it's not the thing that you want to consume all of your waking thoughts because it's a tool to actually help you live the life that you desire to live. And so the combination here of philosophy is really actually thinking deeply about how you want to live and then how money is going to be a component, part, or a tool in that life. And that's not going to be the driver that you maybe that some people fall into the trap of either just chasing it forever or, feeling like if they just had a little bit more. But there's some things we can learn from philosophy that help us no matter where you are on the spectrum of financial wealth, wellness, health, independence, etc.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. I have nothing to add.
So do I get a master's? Not yet. Not yet. So talk to us a little bit about the topic of this series. So we're talking, our hope is to do several of these, and we want to dive into a couple of specific schools of thought over several seasons. But this first season, we're going to dive into
Stoicism.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to be, our vision, we do have a course out there in philosophy, and it covers existentialism, it covers rationalism, it covers empiricism, it covers some Zen Buddhist thought, and Stoicism. And Stoicism is a good place to start because there's a lot of literature out there where there's, folks that have kind of rediscovered this particular school of thought and applied it to many different areas of life, finance being one of them. So it was a logical first place because maybe for some folks, they've actually heard of it, right? And a lot of people probably like empiricism. What is that? So we start here with Stoicism.
Nice. Stoicism means what?
Well, so you don't have a master's in philosophy.
We've established that.
Right. And so if I said, I was feeling very stoic about a situation or someone described themselves as being stoical, what would that trigger in your...
I think of stoic, like the first thing that comes to my mind is somebody who maybe finds themselves in pain and just grits their way through it. That's like the image it conjures up for me. It's just like, just kind of don't show emotion, just kind of focus in and Like just kind of grit your teeth, be serious, and make your way through.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely elements of this making your way through for sure. Being serious, maybe. And I'm not taking. You're correct. That is what most people think of when they think of Stoic. Some people might even think of someone that's very cold-hearted or even detached from a situation. And that is really far off the mark when we start to talk about what was Stoicism in classical Greece. In fact, the word stoa, which is the root word of Stoicism, means marketplace in Greek. So this was a philosophy that began, or was practiced, I should say, in the marketplace. There weren't schools. There weren't Stoic schools. There weren't Stoic academies. It was thinkers that would walk through the market, engage with regular people, and practiced their examination of life among life, inside of life.
Interesting. So it actually comes from a space where the space where it was discussed. So like, I don't know, 2,000 years from now, there could be a philosophy that came out of like not a podcast, but podcasts, right? Like there are people who are out talking about ways of thinking and how you should live your life and all of this stuff. And so you're practicing it out in the world. And so it actually kind of, the root of that came from, hey, where it practiced.
Yeah, because and so the notion that philosophy is like this cold exercise in logic is opposite of what Stoicism is. For a Stoic, philosophy is something that should help you live better. It should answer questions, real questions about your life, and the social aspect is one of the twin pillars. When we start to actually take this apart a little bit, we're going to talk about the two twin pillars of Stoicism, and that's one of them. This idea that we are social, and that if philosophy doesn't fulfill something in a regular person's life, it's not doing its job.
That's probably a thing that a lot of people don't expect about philosophy is, that this thing doesn't have anything to do with my real life. And so we're like literally going to talk about how it actually affects your real life, your financial life, et cetera. So we'll unpack a little bit about if Stoics wanted to be around other people. Was it they just wanted people to understand and do things the way they wanted to? Were they engaging in the conversation? All of the above? What was the kind of interaction maybe between folks of these different schools of thought?
So if we're talking about other schools of thought, so a lot of people have probably heard of Socrates.
Yeah.
Right? And Socrates walking around and pissing people off by asking them uncomfortable questions, right? So they weren't the only ones that were kind of out and about practicing philosophy, but they as I said, they didn't have schools. And one critical element when I talk about regular people is that two of the biggest names or developers, I should say, of Stoic philosophy. One is a slave. His name was Epictetus, and he lived about 50 AD to 100 and something AD, and he was a slave. The name Epictetus means acquired. So his name was acquired. I was bought.
Yeah.
He eventually got his freedom and became a leading teacher in Stoicism, and his is actually the of the writings, of the original writings. He's my favorite. He's nice. He's very bold.
Okay,
and he's not real. He doesn't pull any punches. I have some nice quotes that we'll introduce later from Epictetus. But what I'm trying to get back to this regular person situation. So Epictetus is a leader in Stoicism, and then Marcus Aurelius, a famous Roman. So this is a school of thought that spans from the Greeks to the Romans.
Empires.
Yeah, it spans empires.
So it's not empiricism. Sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. So Marcus Aurelius was the last of the what they called Pax Romana emperors. I think it was 5 or so that were over a very peaceful time
Yep.
in the Roman Empire and before everything really fell apart. His personality, remember the movie Gladiator?
Yes.
So the emperor that dies is loosely, the very thoughtful, philosophical emperor that truly cared about his people. He wrote a book called The Meditations, and it's very popular today, and it's one of the leading Stoic texts. So back to whatever that original question was, but we've got a slave, we've got an emperor using this Stoicism as a operating system for their life. So it's, again, it just gets back to the fact that it's something to be used, not something in an ivory tower to be studied.
So talking about that, then let's bring in a little bit of the financial side of things real quick, which is to say, one of the things that we would say, or we believe, or we think about a lot, is how everybody, regular people, use kind of financial tools and how they kind of interact with their money on a regular basis. Like, there are people that we've heard of, to your point of regular people. There's the Marcus Aureliuses of the world, the emperors that, they have gazillions of dollars and they do it. And then there are the regular people. There are people who have come through life, hard situations, Epictetus, right? Like, you've actually come through a really difficult situation. You've come through challenges and you find yourself with opportunities to do something with your life. And so in some ways, you may have come from a position in life where you've had to work hard, you've tried to figure things out, and you've finally reached a point where you're going, what do I do? Because I'm just starting to experience a little bit of, I've figured out a budget and I've figured this, a couple other things out, and we'll dive into more of that later. But you started to figure some of these things out, and now you've got an opportunity to do something with your financial life, with your financial, even say, philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we going to, as you start seeing some of that tie into this too, is like, what are some of those spaces you see people walking around, the Stoas now, where they're walking around trying to practice financial, ideas and how they're trying to, manage their money?
Yeah, well, so what a Stoic would say about that, and again, we'll kind of get more defined as we chat, but in broad terms, it's really about our attachment to things. And so attachment, desire, getting caught up in an emotional situation, these are all important aspects of Stoicism, and they are all important aspects if you're ever going to get financially well and you're not an emperor and you're a regular person, then being overly attached and being driven by material things in your life and making emotional decisions about your purchases, those are all going to be problems. And so a stoical outlook is going to really help you in that regard.
Very cool. Very cool. So maybe let's as we kind of maybe look at we're wrapping up this episode, we talk about two central ideas.
Yeah.
Two central ideas in Stoicism. Let's talk. What are those two central ideas?
Okay. So we've introduced Stoicism. We've talked about it in broad terms, but I did mention 5 minutes ago that there's two central ideas. Yep. So the one central idea I already kind of spoke more than I probably needed to, and that's the idea that human nature is social. That we are social creatures, that if we lose that aspect of our life, or we don't appreciate that aspect of our life, if we don't nurture that aspect of our life, we're going to get lost in some way, and it's going to make life not so great. The other we haven't really talked about is that not only are we social beings, we're capable of reason. Now, I don't want you to
That's arguable.
I don't want you to go too far down thinking, oh, okay, social and reason. We're going to have to be coldly logical and approach every topic in a very logic chopping sort of way. Not at all. Being capable of reason does not mean you are always reasonable. It does not mean you always engage your reason. It does not mean that you even need to always engage your reason. But it means there are times when that is a critical tool that you're going to need to use, and that you're going to need to exercise it to get stronger.
And if you're not capable, the premise of being capable of it, right? So like, we want to make sure It's like, oh, I'm capable of reason, and I'm actually actively choosing to not use my reason at some points, right?
You may.
So humans are social. Human beings are social. I think that's an important factor because a lot of times people get in when they're in dealing with their money, the human pressure, the ability to hang out with your friends, the desire to compete or keep up with who is around you, the need for validation and therefore purchases that say something about who I am. Those are some ways in which human social kind of that interaction can really kind of drive your financial decisions and override
Poor
your reasoning.
financial decisions, right?
Well, I mean, really,
yeah. No, if you're trying to keep up solely for the,
Sure.
trying to put on a show, and certainly a Stoic would say, let's talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. That's right. And then capable of reason, what we're saying is it's really important that you recognize that there are times for you to be thoughtful about all the decisions you make around your finances. And I think one of the things that I have found in my life when I have conversations with friends or my spouse, like when we're talking, sometimes you want to close your eyes and your reason. It's an overwhelming and it's a difficult conversation, or it's difficult to wrap your head around everything that's going on in your financial life, let alone other parts of your life. And so people who are very reasonable in many other cases avoid using their reason, partly because they don't have the knowledge, partly because they don't have the confidence, they don't feel empowered to do it. And so our hope as we go forward is recognizing there are some tools in a toolbox that are going to help you make more reasoned decisions, intentional decisions around your financial life.
Yes, to always remember that is a tool that needs to be paid attention to and engaged. I'm just going to put a little spin on that, though, is that there's also this aspect of recognizing that even though we're capable of reason, it's okay to mess up. That it is just a capability. It is not necessarily something that we have to feel like we're always pursuing. And that's important because if you feel like you've let yourself down and you're like, oh, I can't do this, the Stoic would say, that's fine. You screwed up, but now you're still capable. Let's go after it again.
Let yourself off the hook sometimes.
Yeah, right.
Nice. All right, so let's do this. We are going to come back next episode talking about the cardinal virtues of Stoicism. So for those of you who are studious and you want to go look it up, I don't know where you go to find it yet. But we're going to talk about the cardinal virtues of Stoicism. We're going to dive into some more around how you unpack and use these tools in your finances. Tyson, anything you want to say before we roll out?
No, just that was
very
fun.
stoic of you.
Thanks for the good conversation, Andrew.
No more. I have nothing more to say. Just kidding. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.